Okay, all right. So now that you've seen the video, hopefully, using that as an example and really helps you because I also really like the way not just the introduction of it, right, trying to show you how exponential function really works, but also I really appreciate how the person actually plotted the points on a graph, connected them, and showing you how to actually make a exponential function as a graph, which we will spend a decent amount of time on. So I thought that was good, and so I want to supplement that video because there's just no way I could do as good a job trying to show this. So as you can see, right, I was trying to like remake that video, but it's just a superior video. Okay, anyways, moving on. Now I want to keep this at around, I don't know, hopefully 5 minutes, just to show you a little more stuff that's related to exponential functions. So one of the first things I want to show you is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this phenomenon, or this phrase. Actually, it's not a phenomenon. It's the phrase that we give to the phenomenon, which is population explosion, right? So one of the things is that, if you look at the figures of population growth around the world, you will see that, right, like the way that the population expands around the globe, right, follows an exponential function. By the way, technology does that too. So one of the things I hope he covered it, but if he didn't, I will cover it right now, is that, let's use technology as an example. So if you look back, so imagine, right, at the beginning of time, like, year zero, right? If you look at year zero and you look at the technology that we had, which is nothing, right? It's the very beginning of time. And then you look at the progress we've made until, I don't know, like up until 100 years ago, let's say, right? So let's say like 1900, right? If you track, and I don't know how you can actually track this, but if you look at the way the way technology has grown, right, it also follows an exponential function. As a matter of fact, I would say like the greatest period of growth is probably within the last 20 years, 30 years, I think, only because I'm a 90s child. So let's say from 2000 to 2020, right? Like you will witness that the growth of technology just tends to accelerate, and and the question might be something like, well, why is that? Well, it's it's funny actually. Now I'm going to quote this. So remember that scene in I forgot which Iron Man it was. I think it's Iron Man 2, right? Remember when Tony was in his house and Nick Fury gave him like that huge black suitcase, right? And he opened it and it was a message from his father, right, from Howard Stark, and he said, son, like, I really want to like, do good for the world, but I'm completely limited by my technology, right? And so it's up to you. And then like Tony Stark found found a new element, right? I forgot what it was called, right? So that's kind of like the same idea. It's the notion that once you have a lot of technology around you, it's easier to create more sophisticated technology. Whereas if you look at 100 years ago, there's just it's not just the amount of high tech, things, right? High tech skills. Okay, guys, this is like 7:50 in the morning. I could hardly think. Because the amount of technology that's available was so little. And not only that, the amount of people who knows what to do with the technology was also very little. Do you understand? So in the past 20 years, not only do we have more technology that's available, but they were made easier to use, right, for people like you and I, and therefore it kind of accelerates the evolution of the technological curve for the past 20 years. So that's something that's of exponential growth. Now, exponential growth doesn't have to always increase. It could actually decrease. So if you look at any elements, right, and I mean that from a chemistry standpoint, like so for example, like uranium, right? The one that you need to make, the one that you need to use in order to create the atomic bomb, right? There's something called half-life. I don't know if any one of you know of this concept, okay, called half-life, which is, right, the amount, okay, I actually have a definition for you here. The time taken for the radioactivity of a specified isotope to fall to half of its original value. So, again, I don't know if you guys noticed, but, during the Cold War, from the period of like the 1940s to the late 1980s, the United States and Russia, right, and a host of other countries were engaged in this Cold War, right? So one of the things that they always talk about is the fear of an atomic bomb, right? So people have shelters, and then they have to do so imagine if we do soft lockdown in school. They did that too, and so if you look at something like uranium, right? It's highly radioactive, which means if you come into contact with it, it's extremely dangerous for your health. And so one of the things they do is they actually just bury the uranium. Okay, now there are more sophisticated methods of doing that nowadays. Like you actually submerge it in water, all right, and try to neutralize it. Okay, I'm not a chemist, so actually physicist, not chemist. All right, so so you basically buried it in water, like a bunch of it. Okay, and so the goal is that over the course of time, the uranium loses its radioactivity, meaning it's less harmful. So the way that we use to measure that is something called half-life, meaning how long would it take for this particular element to lose half of its radioactivity. So the longer the half-life, right, the longer it takes for that element to lose up to half of its value. Now, which also would probably suggest that the element is extremely radioactive, the longer half-life it is, right? So, but the other thing that it would also suggest is that as time goes on, you never really reach zero radioactivity. Like, it's always gonna be it's approaching zero, all right? And maybe perhaps it's vanishingly close, but it never really approaches zero. So you notice, right? So here we start with 1/2, right? This is all half of the previous number, right? And so when you graph that, you get a curve. You get an exponential curve, actually, all right? Now, one last thing, okay? And again, this is spiel or life advice from Old Man Ning. All right, so let's answer the essential question, all right, which I don't know if any one of you even noticed, right? So the essential question was, does the rich get richer, right? And it's kind of the same thing, but I want to change the tone of the topic to talk about just okay, what are the possible reasons that someone could be successful, right? So, okay, now, sometimes, we tend to think, well, a lot of well-to-do people, and, I don't mean just rich people, sometimes it could be just, people who do very well, but not super-duper rich. One of the things I also want to tell you then is if your work, let's say in 10 years, right? Yeah, let's say in 10 years you start working your first job. Right, let's say there's person A and person B, right? Person A works really hard, right? And door starts opening for them, okay? Because people see that you're doing a good job, and then they'll approach you. Hey, look, I got this opportunity. I was wondering if you'd be interested in collaborating, right? And then doors open, right? And even more doors open because of that, right? And so therefore, your earning potential just went from basically nothing because you were in college, right? And your career is gonna take on a growth that is exponential proportion, not linear, not a straight line, right? Because the more people you meet, right, the more people you can help, and the more people are willing to help you and help you succeed, right? So that kind of answers the question too. Does the rich get richer? Yeah, They do, right? Because there are just more opportunities for them to invest their money, right? And if you were rich in the first place, you know, let's say you came from nothing, right? Let's say you came from nothing and now you're extremely wealthy. Like there's a reason, like, and people, you know, people are attracted to successful people, you know, so they're gonna come to you and say, hey, look, you know, I have this opportunity, and I want to, you know, you to invest in this opportunity, and you know, that's how it goes. Okay, so all right, I think that's enough. Hopefully, I could add some, you know, B-roll footage from one of those websites, and okay, that's it. All right, I'm gonna stop now, and thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.
OMG, that was so good.